With me is the Deputy Foreign Minister of Norway. India and Norway have a good relationship. There have been a lot of engagements in the past. There are specific sectors, whether it's investment, whether it's clean technology, which have been the areas of conversation. Let's speak to the Deputy Foreign Minister. So, welcome to WION. And my first question to you is, what is your focus here in India? And essentially, how do you see India-Norway relationship, which has seen a lot of high-level engagements?
Well, we have a very strong and robust relationship with India, and this was consolidated and advanced now with this free trade agreement that we recently entered into, which gives predictability for our enterprises. So I'm here to have conversations about that, to find ways for us to collaborate even further on for commercial purposes. But obviously, given the ascendancy of India on the world stage, it's important for us to discuss geopolitical topics. I've been saying ever since I came here now to Raisina that no solution to any global problem can be found without the participation of India. So we're discussing UN reform, reforming the WTO, upholding respect for international law, how we can find sustainable solutions to the climate crisis, the recent attacks by the U.S. and Israel against Iran. So we're essentially we're here to discuss all kinds of issues with official representation from India, but also with stakeholders and individuals. And I was at the university here in India to give a lecture on Norwegian foreign policy. So we're having a broad agenda and very interesting meetings.
The big topic of conversation globally is now the war in West Asia. What's your assessment about this war? How do you think that this war is going to impact the global stability here in Delhi? The big worry is about energy, about the diaspora. But what is the perspective of Norway?
Well, I think you're entirely right. I think the last thing that the Middle East needs now is another war. And this is, of course, a big war between the U.S. and Israel on the one side, and Iran on the other. And this war has already escalated. Other countries are now implicated, having been targeted by Iran. Our sympathies, first and foremost, are with the Iranian people. They have been brutalized by a very repressive, authoritarian Iranian regime, and now they're taking heat again in terms of being in the middle of this very brutal military conflict. We have also said very clearly that we want to see international law respected. And we don't think that the attacks by the U.S. and Israel were in line with international law. We flagged that as a concern. But obviously, we're equally concerned or more concerned about the way in which Iran has responded. But the most important thing now is to find a peaceful solution to this conflict so we can avoid upsetting global markets and to come back to a situation of stability in not just the region, but in the international community.
Do you think that this war is somehow upending the international relationship? Because the worry in the global south is whatever Iran is doing, what the Americans did by attacking a head of government, by killing a head of the government, is shocking. And this is something that needs to be talked about, something that is concerning for capitals in the global south.
Well, I don't think that that's only a concern for capitals in the global south. It's also something that we have flagged as a concern, not just in the context of Iran, but also in terms of Venezuela and the apprehension of the Venezuelan president, Maduro. This is a clear principle which is protected under international law, that heads of states have immunity, and we think that should be respected. Having said that, there are also other principles that should be respected, such that Iran and the Iranian regime should not brutalize its own population. So you have various principles now being undermined by various governments, and we will continue to speak out against those kinds of violations. And again, our first and foremost priority now is to help bring about a peaceful resolution to this problem. And we are speaking to all parties in order to see if there's anything we can do to facilitate a peaceful outcome.
So, talking about the war in Europe, it's been more than 4 years now. Where do you think the situation is heading? Do you see an off-ramp coming, or do you see the stalemate continuing?
Well, it's difficult to say. Our starting point is very clear. We have said and we have condemned to the fullest extent possible the Russian aggression, which is a blatant violation of the UN Charter. We have supported Ukraine with military means, economic support, also political support, obviously, and we will continue to do so. We recognize that the parties need to come to a conclusion. We have said that we will support whatever outcome the Ukrainians are satisfied with. It should be a just and lasting peace. I think there have been constructive conversations between the parties. That's a good thing. But thus far, a resolution has not been found, and we will continue to support Ukraine up until a resolution is identified. And we'll see if that can be identified in the near future or in the medium to long term. But our support for Ukraine is unwavering.
Now, coming to the trade aspect, India recently and the EU, along with EU, announced the India-EU FTA. We already have the TEPA trade agreement with the EFTA countries, of which you are part of. How do you think that these trade agreements will help the global community, especially the economic community, in an economic stability at a time when Donald Trump's tariffs are another cause of concern across the world?
Well, we think trade is beneficial to countries. So the fact that India has been able to enter into these enormous trade agreements with the EU, with EFTA and other entities, that's an important step forward. For us, this is beneficial. It provides predictability to our enterprises, to our commercial community in Norway, and I think it's also beneficial to Indian consumers, Indian enterprises. So I think it's another example of the EFTA countries and Norway just deepening and broadening its relationship with India. And we see India as an ascending major power in the global community, and for us it's important to collaborate with India in as many areas as possible, also in the economic space, and we're doing that, and this agreement will be a very important vehicle to drive that collaboration.